Et je vais aussi dire quelques mots en français. Bonjour aux fans de France et du Canada, de Soilwork. En enkel woordjes in het Nederlands. Groetjes aan alle Belgische, Vlaamse, Nederlandstalige fans van Soilwork. Thank you for your support, everybody. Cheers.
My turn in Spanish, ¿eh?
There you go.
A todos los fanáticos de Soilwork, aquí estamos con Dirk. Le mando un saludo a todos los metaleros en Latinoamérica, en México, en España, Puerto Rico, Centroamérica. Un abrazo a todos los brothers metaleros. So we got a shout out in multiple languages for everybody.
Awesome.
Watching Superskum.com. I'm Carlos Reale. I'm here with Senor Dirk from Soilwork. Thank you so much, man, for giving us a little bit of your time
My
to
pleasure,
bug you
man.
with a few questions. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
I know it's a really, 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 really long and heavy tour. It's 54 dates, but we'll talk about that one in a second.
Yes.
To begin, here you are. Basically, the band is celebrating 18 years of a career, if you will, 1995,
Yep.
9 studio albums, and basically you went from being called inferior breed all the way to Soilwork. I personally have always been curious of why the name Soilwork, like who came up with it and what is the true meaning of it as far as the band is related.
Well, what I know about it, because obviously I wasn't in the band at the time, but I kind of, have had the chance to talk to the rest of the guys about it. And I know that they decided to change the name, I think, because they wanted to have a unique name. They wanted to have something that, they were sure no one else was going to have, that stood out a little bit. And so I believe, Bjorn, don't yell at me if I'm wrong about this, but I believe it was Peter who came up with the name Soilwork, and he kind of saw it as working oneself up from the ground, so because at the time obviously it was a very underground band, and we're still a very hard-working band to this day. It's not like we've become like rich rock stars or anything, so I think the name still applies. So yeah, that's pretty much where it came from.
You also have an interesting, I would say like an unofficial mascot, just because I have nowhere else to put it in context. It's this figure with the pickaxe,
Yes.
and it's in several albums, Stabbing the Drum of the singles, the box set.
Yes.
You have it also on the new one with the trident. You also have it on, of course, the Panic broadcast, very small, next to the chairs and all that.
Yeah.
What's that about? I mean, does he have a name?
Yes, he is called the Sledgehammer Messiah.
Okay,
just like in the song Chain Heart Machine, that song kind of like presents him, and I believe that was I also may be wrong about that, but I believe that was Carlos Holmberg, our old keyboard player,
Yes.
who was in the band for the first 3 records. He's a great graphic designer, and I think I believe he came up with that logo. Again, I may be wrong about that, but I'm pretty sure he did. And the band just wanted to have something that visually represented Soilwork as well. So what better than a figure with a kind of a sledgehammer, working its way through whatever he's working through.
And now a trident.
Yes, and now a trident,
In the
exactly.
Living Infinite, of course.
Yes.
You are currently supporting, of course, the new album, 9th studio album, The Living Infinite. And this time around, you actually treated your fans by giving them a double feast,
Yes,
if
yes.
you will, of Soilwork.
Yeah.
So, how did this idea of a double album come about? Like, what was the inspiration? I know the band was also trying to set a goal and prove something, Peter leaving the band, that you can still write a lot of songs and all that. I mean, I'll let you answer the first question and, and I'll give you the other one. But what was the inspiration and how did it happen that you ended up with a double album?
Well, we were playing festivals, actually, still supporting Panic Broadcast in Europe, and I think this was summer 2011, and David was already with us at that time, because Peter, was we already had a feeling that Peter wasn't going to be able to continue with the band. We had to cancel a U.S. tour, and then he couldn't be there for the festivals and stuff. So we called David, and he was with us. And one day it was a show in Finland, I believe, and Bjorn came up and said, "Hey, I have this idea. Wouldn't it be awesome if we did a double record for the next one?" And we were just sitting around and kind of like, kind of like, yeah, I don't know. It seems kind of a daunting task when you first think about it, and a lot of stuff. You think about, like, is the label going to want to pay for it and this and that. So we weren't sure, but at that point it was an idea that kind of started, germing within all of us, I guess. And then on a later festival, a few weeks later, he came up with the title because he had been reading Jules Verne, and that's the description Jules Verne used for the ocean, is the living infinite, which he found that to be a great way to describe that, and we all have our own connections kind of with the sea and with the ocean in different ways, for each of us personally. So when he came up with that, and kind of like we could use that as a guideline, and he had a bunch of lyrical ideas that he talked about, and so then it started to become already something more concrete and interesting. And then we said, well, if we can pull it together musically, let's do it. So yeah, that's kind of how it happened.
Do you think the band actually achieved that goal of proving that, hey, I mean, of course you did it, and of course it sounds amazing, and it is a bunch of songs, and they're all really good.
Yeah.
But do you think the band actually achieved its goal as far? I mean, the album just came out a month ago,
Right.
a little bit over a month ago. It was 5 weeks, but as far as like reviews, fan reaction, all that, do you think the band, the album catching on, finding a niche?
Definitely. I mean, the reactions have been outstanding, and they're all across the board. There's a lot of great comments. Of course, some people, you can't please everybody, and some people think it's too long or that there's filler or whatever. But the general consensus, though, is that everybody thinks it's possibly our strongest album, or definitely one of our strongest albums. So, yeah, I feel that, we're also personally, each one of us were very satisfied with it. It was really a band effort. Everybody feels that they got, to express themselves in this record, and so we really stand behind it as far as that goes. We kind of continued what we started on the previous record with that, where it was more open. I think for a while the band wanted to go a certain direction because certain people in the band wanted to kind of, how do I say this, without sounding bad, wanted to kind of strip things down a little bit, because I think some people grew kind of tired of the older sound and the technical aspects and the more over-the-top aspects. And so with Panic Broadcast, when Peter first came back to the band, we said, let's change directions. Let's just do whatever we do and not put any restrictions on anything. And we definitely continued that with The Living Infinite even more, because having 2 CDs allowed for a ton of extra space, and we could bring in things that would have probably not have been brought in on a single album. So.
And in my opinion, as a fan of the band and the album, I think it sounds just more organic.
Yeah, that was. I'm happy to hear that, because that was really what we wanted to do. Again, that was something we started on Panic Broadcast, and which was the first time we worked with Jens Bogren, also, who did the drum recording and the mixing for that record. And so we went back to him, and one of the discussions was we wanted to be even more, real sounding, like a live band.
Yes.
And of course we want it to sound big and powerful, but we want to limit the use of studio trickery. We want to keep little mistakes in there. We want the keyboards and the bass to be more present. We want it to be an all-around thing where everybody in the band is felt in an organic way. So, and I think we really, he did an incredible job with that.
And you play it and you notice it immediately, and especially the guitars as well. I mean,
Right.
So I like it. I mean, it's not overproduced, and when I mean organic, I mean in a very positive way, as a
Right.
compliment.
Awesome.
The record just, you can feel it right there,
Right,
for
right.
sure.
Awesome.
So it's good that new sound is also very good. It's very Soilwork as well.
Yeah.
Not that anything else was overproduced before, but it was more polished sometimes, and
Absolutely.
and it was just more studio worked out, if you will.
Exactly,
But
exactly. Yeah. And which wasn't always, sometimes you end up in the studio and you don't always, it doesn't always go the way you want it to, so it's kind of not an easy process to control. But with this one, it definitely went, very smoothly. So.
And going, to the recent history of the band, and don't worry, we're not going to put you in the spot on this one, but Peter left the band again, June of last year. Everybody knows that by now. There's the usual, he said, you said, they said, all that. Hey, everybody can figure it out on their own.
Right.
More importantly, you got David Andersson,
Yes.
who from many years ago. He actually he took care of the guitar work for the tour when Peter dropped out of the band the first time. So you've toured with them, with him. You've known him for a very long time. So David is a replacement, and basically, I just want to know, how has David fulfill that official role? I mean, he's part of the band from a long time ago, but what does he bring now as an official member, if anything has changed, to the table musically for Soilwork? And he recorded the last album as well. He wrote a lot of the music as well, and one song lyrically as well. So.
Exactly. I mean, David is a very accomplished musician and songwriter and lyricist, everything. He's been working in various genres of music. He had his own band, Mean Streak, which did albums, and he also worked with other artists, in different fields. And so he's very accomplished, and he has a lot of experience. And we got to know him as a pretty laid-back person, very easygoing person, somebody that automatically kind of, he expressed to us that he liked the vibe in the band, and even more so now in the latter shows that he did with us than in the past. So it was a very natural connection, and so when the time came to do those festivals that I was mentioning earlier in 2011, he was a natural choice, and everybody just instantly, everybody else in the band instantly felt like it's so easy with David, and he can play the stuff, and he seems to be enjoying it a lot. When we talked to him, he always said he loved it, and so it's like, why not? And he brought a lot to the table with the album. He really stepped up, brought a lot of music, really great stuff. And the way of working with him was very fun, in my opinion, because it was very open. He wrote a few songs that were more or less finished, but then he wrote a lot of material that was very raw still, like a bunch of guitar riffs that would go together, or maybe one guitar riff, or maybe stuff that didn't have any drums at all, or very simple drums. And so he allowed us, the rest of us, and in particular myself, and Bjorn also, to come in and just change the stuff around. He was totally okay with that, which made it fun, because I managed to restructure some of his stuff, change some tempos, cut some riffs, add in some new ones, add in some beats that he then later put riffs to in parts of songs and things like that. So it was really like a natural interaction, and I think he really nailed what Soilwork stands for also musically, So, I mean, right now it feels like a great place to be with David in the band.
And you can't beat open collaboration, especially in the studio, the writing process.
Yeah.
That usually, for the most part, turns out to be a very positive, factor, if you will,
Absolutely.
in writing an album and recording together.
Yeah, I mean, there's different ways to do it, and for example, Sven, our keyboard player, who's also a very talented individual, he has always contributed songs to pretty much every album since he's joined the band, and his songs tend to be very finished because he plays guitar, he can program drums really well, and he'll come with a finished vision. He'll work on a song at home and make a demo for a lengthy amount of time, and then when it comes, the song is done, and that's cool too. I mean, it works, and he writes great stuff, and the same was with Peter. Peter had a tendency, more, not always, but to write songs that were very much a finished vision. And of course, he allowed us all to bring things in. It wasn't like he was like, you have to play this, It wasn't like that. But with David, it was different in the sense that, like I said, it was more open, and it allowed for more, chemistry to happen, in the sense of the raw, basic, idea of the song could evolve. So that was very interesting.
The new album just came out 5 weeks ago, and it came out a week before you started this U.S. tour, this North American tour, I should say,
yes,
to include everybody. But has the set list actually evolved now that the album has gotten a little bit more exposure and people know more of the new songs?
Absolutely, yeah. We set out from the beginning, in part because of that, and in part because we didn't want to get too bored, to kind of get things to be open, So the first thing we did is we cut a number of songs that we have played a lot of times that people always expect to hear, but we're like, we've played so many tours in North America, it's time that if they don't hear there as we speak or whatever, they can come back next time. So we cut a number of songs. We brought in some stuff that we have rarely played or never played. And then we also left it open for a lot of the new material, and what we're doing is we're learning new material in soundcheck and stuff and on the road. So people will sit down, figure out their parts, then we'll play the song, a number of days in soundcheck and stuff like that, and then when we feel ready, we'll bring it into the set. So the list has evolved quite a bit over the past 5 weeks, and now we've had a steady set for about a week. That feels really good. But we're still going to learn new things, as the time goes on, and change it around again. So yeah.
How many new songs in the set list right now?
6 right now.
6 right now.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. So it's a healthy amount, but I mean, it's a double album, and
absolutely,
we're promoting it, so it makes sense to do that. People are loving it. So.
And have you seen the difference in the fan reaction so far for the new material as it actually gets more exposure?
It's amazing, man. I mean, like in Los Angeles, people were screaming the lyrics to almost every new song. And I mean, when you see that and you realize how short the album's been out, you're like, wow, that's cool. So yeah, it's been awesome, man. Other cities too, not just LA, but that's just one that I remember in particular because I could really hear it. But you know, yeah, it's been the songs work really well live, and I think because a lot of them we managed to also rehearse, which we hadn't done for the Panic broadcast. We just went straight into the studio without ever playing together. For this one, we managed to rehearse and kind of fine-tune some little details with bass and drums and stuff. So you know, it makes things fun, you know, to play live.
Yeah, that's what it's all about. If you know, the fan reaction right there, that's as a musician, doesn't get much better than that.
Exactly.
For last, you know, this question is more towards you and your music career. We were talking about before the interview a little bit about that, and right now, just basically, you are a very busy musician. Not only you were telling us that you were doing lessons in the tour, private lessons or one-on-one at least, and then at the same time, your drumming duties are shared with many other bands, many other projects. What's going on right now? What do you have active right now? What's anything in the future for you that you're collaborating with, or any side project that you're recording, whenever you get time, of course, that you can tell us about?
Well, first off, I've been working on the new release of Bensi, which is my grindcore project, where I play drums and guitar. I write all the music, I write all the lyrics. It's really my kind of pet project, you know, that I do purely for fun. But just before the tour, I had Shane Embury, who, you know, from Napalm Death. He came over to my house and recorded bass for all the songs. And then I've been working on kind of like making rough mixes now on the road on my computer, and waiting for Sven from Aborted to go to the studio and record his vocals. So that should be done anytime, and then we're going to complete that and release that. Probably a split LP with Superskum from Sweden, which is good friends of mine, a great crust band. So that's the main thing I've been working on, but I've been also doing a lot of drum sessions for different bands. You know, right now I started recording for a French band, which I don't know. I'm not sure of the name of the project yet, but I believe it's Doomage. So it's kind of a very unique kind of progressive take on metal. No blast beats or anything, but some really interesting technical parts and then some more groovy parts. So I just recorded like 1.5 songs for now, and I'm working on the editing of those, and then I'm gonna continue as soon as I get home. And there's a bunch of other stuff, man. I mean, there's a lot of different things that I'm working on all the time. I'm going to also be drumming with Jeff Loomis at the end of this tour, since his drummer Anoop has to go on another tour that he had planned prior to this tour being booked. So, you know, the last 11 shows I'm going to step in and play double.
Because you already had an experience with Jeff. I mean, you recorded with him. And
yes, I played drums on Plains of Oblivion.
And Warrell, right? With Warrell as well?
Also with Warrell on his album. So, you know, yeah, we've known those guys for a long time. They're awesome guys. So so it's awesome to have Jeff with us too, you know, on this tour. And he's amazing, man. He's such an incredible guitarist and such a humble and easygoing person. We love him. So in his band, all the guys are really cool. All the bands on this tour are super cool, actually. So we're really getting along. But I digress. Yeah, you know, there's a ton of different things. You know, Scarf, our old band with Sylvain. We're planning to get together, hopefully either later this year or early next year to write and record a bunch of stuff for a new album, which has been a long time in the making, but we decided to finally, let's just get together and make it happen, you know, old school style. We used to always rehearse a lot, just get in the same room, and so we're going to do that. And yeah, you know, I mean, I can't remember all the names right now. Recently, the Project Hate from Sweden is a band that released an album that I played drums on. You know, I recorded drums for Fredrik from Meshuggah a number of years ago already. This is actually back in 2010, but he's been super busy with Meshuggah. But this is for his second solo album, which I'm hoping he's gonna have time to work on at some point in the near future.
Wow, that's a lot.
It was a very interesting session, and yeah, we were super good friends with Fredrik too. And you know, obviously Devin, worked with him a lot. Devin played bass also on the first Ben C EP and produced that. So, you know, we actually, he came out to see us in Vancouver a few weeks ago when we played there, and I went and got food with him, and it was awesome to see Devin.
And you played with Devin as well.
I did Deconstruction, yeah, and then we
right?
did some shows in London, which came out on the DVD by a thread. That was a blast. biggest rehearsal project ever for one show, but it was a lot of fun though, because that's such a crazy album, you know, so it took a lot of practicing on my end to nail that stuff, but it was so worth it. It was so much fun, and Devin is so awesome, and
yeah,
so,
no, definitely. Yeah, we've also talked to him, and he's just a really good guy too.
He's amazing, man. But you know, it's what you got to do, man. You got to stay busy, you know, when you're doing this, like, you know, it's fun. And I mean, I feel super blessed. I get to play drums a lot. I get to work with different people, and I enjoy working with people like Devin and Frederick as much as I enjoy working with underground bands that a lot of times nobody knows of. But you know, I got to work with like this Portuguese guy called Max Tomé, which played in a band called Colosso, which is basically his one-man project. He does everything beside drums. And so I recorded an album for him, you know, about a year and a half ago that came out, and it sounds amazing. And it's just like this kid that I didn't even know, you know, and he's so talented, and you know, so this sends me these songs, and I'm like blown away, and I just get to play on it, and it's fun, you know. I mean, I feel super happy to be able to do that, you know?
I mean, there is absolutely no doubt that you enjoy what you do, and my God, I mean, you're going to be everywhere in this upcoming year and next year, and I don't even know how you're going to have time to record all this, but it's awesome. I mean, you got to take a break. If not, you're going to have like a psychotic breakdown.
I love drumming, man. You know, I can drum every day, and I do need to take a break sometimes. Like I said, after this tour, I'll probably sleep for a week. But
we're like 2 weeks, man. We like to end our interviews over here, giving you a little space as well for you to actually talk to your fans. Any last word you want to say, feel free. Any message, it's all yours, man.
Cool, absolutely. I appreciate that. I would actually love to talk a little bit about the Living Infinite, the Soilwork album, and kind of what it represents to me. You know, as I mentioned earlier, it's about the ocean. It's kind of a wide concept. Bjorn wrote most of the lyrics on the album, so he kind of has his own personal interpretation with that. To me personally, it's a way for me to kind of spread a message that's dear to me. I'm I'm an animal person. I like nature and animals a lot. It's really close to my heart ever since I was a kid. And a number of years ago when I met my wife, she's been a vegetarian for a long time. I became a vegetarian too after meeting her, and kind of, you know, learning about that lifestyle. It was a very natural and easy choice for me, and so for me, you know, the Living Infinite being about the ocean and stuff, it's the ocean is one of those things that it's far away, and you know, it's there, and most people aren't really in touch with it. But when you start looking into it, there's a lot of crazy shit happening with pollution, and you know, of course, every now and then you hear about stuff like the BP oil spill, but there's a lot of smaller level things happening too that are pretty bad, and overfishing, you know, people just plundering the ocean and taking out everything they can, not putting anything back, and just, you know, species are disappearing like every day almost, you know, because it's so uncontrolled and there's so much greed happening. And so it's something that, you know, obviously one person can't really change that, but I just want to, hopefully this album will draw a little bit of attention to that for some of our fans who are into that stuff, and maybe they can do some research, look at documentaries like Earthlings, Shark Water, you know, check out some of that stuff and see, and maybe it'll resonate with you. You know, I'm not preaching about it or anything. I just, you know, for me personally, it's something that's close to my heart, and anything anybody can do, whether it's the smallest step, whether it's a $5 contribution to something that they believe in, or maybe take some bigger steps and talk to their friends about it, you know, that would make a difference. It's this planet, you know, it's a fragile place, and people really need to be reminded of that, because we all, including myself, tend to get caught up in, you know, the world we live in and our daily shit. And so it's important to sometimes step out of that and, you know, take a look from the outside and kind of maybe do something good. So yeah, man, that's all I wanted to say.
No, and we support that environmental message 100%, and without even having to go beyond any dire situations of, if you don't have money, you can't donate. You can always be part of the solution, man. Seriously.
Absolutely.
Shorter showers, turn off the faucet.
Exactly.
You know, it's like basic recycle. For God's sake, don't trash the place up.
Exactly, man.
You live in it, so we appreciate the message,
awesome,
man, and we second that motion over there. And
I'm glad to hear that.
Deeply also.
Fantastic.
And especially you're here in Colorado. It's a very green state as well.
Yes.
In the United States, so it's a model state, if you will.
Yes.
So we like it green over here, and hope to keep it that way.
Yes, man. Yes, exactly.
So
it's
thank
important.
you so much, man.
Yeah, man. Thank you.
Dirk,
Thank you.
really
I
appreciate it, man.